Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency has reported that Iranian forces launched drone attacks toward U.S. military vessels after American forces fired on an Iranian commercial ship in the Sea of Oman. According to Tasnim, the drone strikes came in response to the U.S. attack on the Iranian vessel earlier in the same day. The report did not provide further details about the scale of the strikes or any possible damage. That is a significant claim from a semi-official Iranian outlet, but it has not been independently confirmed by Reuters or AP at the same level, and no matching confirmation has come from the U.S. side. If the account holds, it would mark the first direct Iranian drone engagement against American naval assets during the current maritime standoff. The sequence Tasnim described begins with an American action, not an Iranian one. According to the account, U.S. forces opened fire on an Iranian merchant vessel in the Sea of Oman, and the drone response followed. That framing places the escalation trigger on Washington rather than on Tehran. Iranian state-linked media have previously carried claims of this nature during the Hormuz standoff, and the pattern has been that initial Iranian reports sometimes precede wire confirmation by hours or remain unmatched entirely. Until Reuters, AP, or U.S. Central Command issue their own account, the Tasnim report sits in the public record as an Iranian claim that has not been independently verified. What is clear is that both sides are now operating in the same contested waters, where the margin between incident and escalation is measured in minutes, not days.
For me, there is absolutely no distinction between the two. I am fully prepared to lay down my very life, and I am equally prepared to sacrifice my honor right here. I am completely ready to shed my own blood, and I am completely ready to endure any amount of heartache. Of paramount importance is the safeguarding of the inherent rights of this great nation, the fundamental rights of our beloved Iran, and ensuring its enduring glory remains intact. Furthermore, it is essential that our people maintain their unwavering faith and offer their heartfelt prayers as we all collectively advance, united under the wise and steadfast leadership of our esteemed Supreme Leader. Allow me to introduce His Eminence, Ayatollah Agha Moshtaba Khamenei. Just consider what the enemy's objectives truly were. After all, if the enemy fails to achieve its aims, it's clearly been defeated. This is quite evident indeed. We were not the aggressors in this conflict. It was they who initiated this unprovoked attack. They certainly had very specific objectives in mind. He wanted to force Iran into a full surrender. He spoke of victory in just 2 or 3 days. How many days have truly gone by since that point? For more than 40 days, you are locked in a bitter fight. And now, for what feels like 10, maybe even 12 days, we've been under a ceasefire. Yet after those grueling 40 days, he was ultimately forced to declare a ceasefire. Consequently, he proved incapable of compelling us to surrender. His primary goal was to initiate a transformation within the existing regime, but he ultimately failed to change it. He mistakenly believed that Iran was just like Venezuela, assuming it would behave in precisely the same manner. Then 4 days later he would come and declare, well, we have taken Iran's oil. Anyone who wants some oil can simply come and take it from the Persian Gulf. This was indeed one of his objectives. This was the third objective. He stated quite clearly, from the very first day, I will unequivocally declare my intention to completely dismantle Iran's missile capabilities through the extensive bombing campaigns I personally conduct. However, he soon came to understand that as the days and weeks progressed, our ability to fire, our accuracy, and our overall precision remained entirely untouched and unaffected by his actions. No matter how much he bombarded our positions, he quickly realized he couldn't destroy our offensive capabilities, and we had already made it absolutely clear that such a thing would never come to pass. To be frank, you were quite vulnerable, even during the operation of our missile launchers. However, on this occasion, you clearly observed that within this particular region, our genuine firepower, the sheer breadth and variety of our offensive capabilities, was completely unveiled. In Isfahan, they encountered a truly catastrophic situation, an event far more devastating than the well-known Tabas incident. It was his deliberate and calculated intention to provide substantial support for the counter-revolutionary movement, initiating it from both our western and eastern border regions. He openly confessed, stating quite clearly, I personally supply weaponry to certain individuals among them, with the explicit purpose of having them launch attacks and engage us directly in those specific areas. However, despite all his meticulous planning and every single effort he made, every attempt ultimately proved to be entirely unsuccessful. He was actively trying to stir up internal unrest, both in the time before the war and after it had begun. This is something that we very clearly observed and took note of. However, he ultimately failed to achieve that specific objective, so he then decided to launch a full-scale ground invasion. He couldn't manage to do so. He came to address the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, intending to seize and fully control this vital area. He invited the entire world to help, but absolutely no one responded to his urgent call. He then invited NATO to intervene, but once again, no one answered him. He tried to carry out this task himself, but still, no one came to his aid. Well, it's abundantly clear then that we are victorious in this scenario. I must emphasize this point right now. If we were to take into consideration, we were in negotiations with America, and I'm one of the people involved. So Where did all these ultimatums come from? Why did he specify just 2 days? Why did he then say 5 more days? Why didn't he simply say, I'll strike the infrastructure tomorrow? I want to state right here now that I truly and deeply admire the profound insight, the unwavering courage, and the fierce, unyielding devotion that comes from the Iranian nation particularly. And let me just make this absolutely clear right here so that none of us men in particular should feel any offense. The women of this nation, the Iranian women, were far more zealous and courageous than your men. They were out there in the field. I felt a deep sense of shame before them. The day they declared, we intend to strike vital bridges to hit power plants and other critical centers. I saw that powerful scene, a family, a young woman holding her children's hands. They all came and stood right there on the platform. Everyone went out to help. They formed a strong human chain. This is the true spirit of our nation. I truly don't understand how this incredibly ignorant American ruling establishment can possibly make the claim that this is Venezuela, how they are able to utter such statements. Why can't they simply grasp the true reality of the situation? I made it clear to Vance that the Iranian people are a nation of great culture, a nation that is deeply respectful. They are, in fact, a truly courageous nation. You will not find throughout the history of Iranian civilization that Iranians ever surrendered their independence. This is what has granted us this victory, especially considering these international wars that have taken place throughout all recent centuries. And Iran has, as a matter of fact, recently made it quite clear that we play absolutely no part whatsoever in these global conflicts, if you know what I mean. Just consider in Iran the truly immense number of millions of people who were massacred, brutally slaughtered, and ultimately perished at the hands of these specific individuals, whether it was due to widespread famine or during brutal times of war. It remains a tremendous source of pride here that this resilient nation, our steadfast people, confronted and effectively halted not only the formidable global superpower, but also, simultaneously, the brutal, bloodthirsty Zionist regime. Together, they completely immobilized them both. So, as we delve into this particular segment, it becomes abundantly clear that, in actual fact, no substantive negotiations whatsoever had genuinely taken place right up until that precise juncture. To be more specific, we are talking about a mere 48 hours, a very short window of time, just before the official declaration of the ceasefire was finally made. Now, you observe Trump, a true master of the art. Now, people nowadays, when they deliberately lie and perform actions that are quite simply in violation of the established rules, some people refer to it as psychological warfare. But you witnessed it firsthand, that very tweet from just yesterday. He published 8 separate tweets simultaneously, and a staggering 7 of those were nothing but blatant falsehoods. Well, as I've already mentioned, you simply need to verify it for yourself. In any event, the highly respected spokesperson representing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Baghai, who also serves as the official spokesperson for the negotiating delegation, last night offered a thorough explanation of this matter, presenting it accurately and with great precision. Therefore, it was also from this viewpoint that when everything truly began, and just to make things perfectly clear, the negotiations actually commenced at the precise moment President Trump's tweet was published, following the specific request made by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. It was he who gave his acceptance and full agreement. What that means is he issued a formal request for a ceasefire so that this matter could truly be put into effect, beginning from that very day.
Within those 48 hours you mentioned, even this negotiation is the very last moment. The 48...
No, not at all. Yes, that is right. Absolutely not. No, not in the slightest.
That's why.
There was just one single mediation session specifically concerning those 10 crucial points, and the letters I previously brought up, along with the 15 distinct points that were exchanged. Ultimately, after the crucial decision was thoroughly made and formally finalized within the esteemed National Security Council, and once the Supreme Leader himself had fully concurred with the fundamental basis of the specific conditions for the upcoming negotiation, it was then that we proceeded to dispatch those 10 critical points. All of these significant developments transpired entirely during those critical final 48 hours, and from that pivotal moment onward, this truly represents the inherent right of the people, as I have previously stated.